We've all heard about MasterChef judges like Gordon Ramsay, who is more popular for his somewhat mean and harsh judgments when it comes to criticizing food than his actual cooking skills. But trust me when I say, no one, not even Ramsay, compares to this one person, Joe Bastianich. Let's just put it this way, you can call him the meanest, rudest, and most disrespectful food judge, and you won't be too far from the truth. In fact, you might just be absolutely correct. And there are tons of reasons why this is true. A whole lot. Like the time he literally picked up a dish from a contestant and trashed it without even tasting it. Or when he totally dismissed a contestant's cooking skills all because she was blind. I mean, the list is just endless. So let's get right into it and meet the most hated judge on MasterChef. In the public's eye, Joe might appear as that guy. You know, famous with a successful career and an experienced restaurateur with a passion for creating appealing and mouth-watering meals. But in reality, he has just one passion, bullying. And on almost every season and episode of MasterChef he has been on, not once did he ever fail to make that point known. Let me explain. One time in season 1, he literally stripped down every bit of confidence left in one of the contestants, Slim Hyun. Imagine picking up her dish, calling it a buffet gone wrong, then going ahead to trash everything in the bin. And the worst part? He didn't even taste it. Yes, I know they say food is first eaten with the eyes, but come on. No matter how bad he believed it was, a little taste wouldn't have sent him in an ambulance to the ER, nor would it have damaged his taste buds. So how could he be so sure by just mere looking at the dish? If you ask me, it's obvious he only based his judgments on Ramsay's comment on the food and thought, oh, if Ramsay didn't like it, then there's no way I'm wasting my time trying to taste or even critique the food. So what did he do? He trashed it away and didn't even have the courtesy to comment on what was actually wrong with the food. You know, like how judges are supposed to provide constructive criticism on what they like or don't like about a person's dish. Well, obviously that term doesn't belong in his vocabulary. Here's another time Joe showed that he's just a privileged restaurateur with lack of culinary expertise. It was the auditions in the second episode of the first season, and there was a particularly impressive home cook, Tamara Poyser, who displayed great cooking skills and looked like MasterChef material. She plated a nice-looking lobster curry rice, and although the dish had some flaws here and there, Ramsay commented on what was lacking, what she could have done better, and overall he said it was okay. But what did Joe think about it? He tasted it. And guess what? He walked back to his seat without uttering a word about the dish. What an attitude! Come on, Joe, at least have the decency to spell out what you didn't like about it, how she could do better next time, and not just blatantly dismiss a dish without saying anything about it. Well, it's a good thing Ramsay saw and recognized her potential and gave her first yes. Although Graham also wasn't feeling her creation at first, but he could see from Ramsay's point of view that she had an unearthed potential and could do better, and of course, that changed his mind towards Tamara. But nope, not Joe. The only 4 words he could blurt out were, "No, it's not MasterChef." That's coming from a guy who wouldn't even recognize a talent when it's staring him dead in the face. But who really is this guy? I mean, what qualifies him to be a judge, and a very mean one at that? Well, let's start from the beginning. Growing up in Queens, New York, Joe was surrounded by a family that absolutely adored food. It's no surprise considering his parents owned a restaurant. Joe learned the ins and outs of the culinary world from them. Later, he teamed up with his mom, Lydia Bosanic, and chef Mario Batali to create the Batali and Bastianich restaurant group. They hit the jackpot with numerous successful restaurants in and around New York City. Then, in 2010, Joe took his fame to the next level by jumping into the TV scene. He became one of the judges on Fox's MasterChef, joining forces with Gordon Ramsay and Graham Elliott. He didn't stop there. Joe also hopped onto the pint-sized version, MasterChef Junior. He stuck around for 5 seasons on the original and 3 on the junior before taking a break. But he made a comeback in 2018, returning to both MasterChef shows, and I guess I can speak for everyone when I say that wasn't really the best of news. So, we've been able to establish that Joe is not the nicest person you could ever meet. Instead, he glories in slandering and talking very little about people rather than judging what he was brought on the show for. But it might surprise you to know that he wasn't raised that way. Here's one episode on the show where his mother, yes, you heard that right, his mother, Lydia Bosanic, appeared as one of the judges on episode 9 of season 4. And surprisingly, she was nothing like her son. Here's what went down. So, it was Howard's turn to show his culinary creation, and he wasn't 100% confident in what he had cooked up. However, he had some hopes that the judges would still have something nice to say about the dish. Now, see how Lydia constructively criticized the meal, and at the same time gave him the right pointers to what he should do differently next time. Guys, that right there is how a judge is meant to give feedback. But sadly, the pixie dust in the air vanished once Joe came in to give his own judgments. And get this, he starts by saying, "I don't understand, she's been nice to you?" Come on, Joe, does that have anything to do with your judgments about the food? And of course, he didn't stop there, but went on and on talking about everything else except the food that was right in front of him. Here's the most interesting part. When Howard gave him a little dose of savagery after he lectured him about duplicating his dish, Joe felt his ego being punctured, and that was when it got a whole lot personal. I mean, Joe even called Howard a narcissist. That is wild. You could even see the anger in him, and everyone in the room could feel the tension. And I bet his mom was sorely disappointed in him. Like, how did judging one's food turn into a slander about their personality? Gordon Ramsay even once said in an interview that the difference between his show, Hell's Kitchen, and MasterChef is that in the former, the contestants are supposed to be professionals. In contrast, MasterChef are usually good home cooks and others who picked up cooking as a hobby. And Ramsay recognized that. That is why he is less harsh and provides more feedback in MasterChef than on Hell's Kitchen. Now, I wish someone would have given Joe a good orientation about his job description before he was brought in as a judge. Sadly, that was never the case. And I'm 100% sure Joe would rather count the hair on his head than have someone school him on what he thinks he already knows. But it gets even worse, and this incident was the final straw that ultimately earned him the title of Most Hated Judge on MasterChef. This happened on the 16th episode of Season 3, which introduced them to Christine Ha, a blind contestant with some serious skills off her sleeves. In this particular episode, the contestants were tasked with the challenge of individually creating meals for a restaurant. And trust me when I say it wasn't a walk in the park. For Christine, she had already shown the judges what she was capable of, so they expected nothing less from her. And while the contestants were whipping up their meals, the three judges, Ramsay, Graham, and Joe, had a discussion about where Christine would fit. Ramsay recognized that she was a star, and Graham thought she should be at the end of the line, to give the perfect finish. And when Joe finally spoke, he had the most inhumane thing to say about her. For him, Christine lacked the skills to pull out anything grand. In fact, he unapologetically blurted out that she should be in the coat check room. Excuse me? That's the highest level of disrespect to anyone. This proves that not only is he a terrible person with an even more terrible ego, but also an ableist. And I mean that literally. Even Ramsay, who we all know gives the not-so-nice criticism, was completely appalled by Joe's statement. And if you thought that he was only being a killjoy to contestants on the show, sorry to break it to you, but on and off television, Joe Bastianich is an actual douchebag. Here's another proof, and this one has quite made a dent in his public image. It was on a show for MasterChef Italia, and he was having his manicure and pedicure at a beauty salon in Milan's Chinatown. You can see him feeling all high and mighty on his throne while resting his feet on his maiden's lap. And in his usual nature, he began being disrespectful to the staff, and even asking some inappropriate questions, like, have you ever gone out for a romantic evening with an Italian man? Nope. He didn't stop there, but went on to disrespect Chinese men, saying they are a bit flawed and a little short. What? Can someone please humble this guy for just a little bit? He sure needs to be reminded that he isn't a lord over anyone. And when the clip aired out and started receiving backlashes, Joe said it was all scripted and that he even knew the women personally. Really, Joe? Really? Let's say it was in fact scripted. Did he really have to do that? Couldn't he say no and back out of that episode? Was he forced to degrade people like that on camera? Well, there goes it again, and 1,001 reasons more why Joe is the meanest and most hated judge on MasterChef.